Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So this morning we got the latest CPI inflation reading, and it's no good. Inflation is rising once again, and there's a big jump between July and August. So what is going on exactly? How should we prepare for more inflation? And let's talk about Bitcoin. All right, let's do this, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The market bell, there we go, has just rung. Right now, U.S. market is kind of in the red, barely in the red. Traders are still trying to digest this. Is this a good reading or not? We have something that's actually, I guess, the saving. I mean, there's an asterisk to this, okay, that may have saved this for today. Now, you can see this headline, okay? Core inflation rose 0.3% hotter than expected overall. Okay, if you're looking at this, we went from 3.2% to 3.7%. That's a big jump. That's 0.5%, right? So why did this happen? Because oil prices went up. OPEC continues to cut. For whatever reason, they think this is a good time to be cutting oil, right? Lower output means higher prices. That's just how it is, right? So it definitely affected CPI, the headline inflation. However, the saving grace to this, the asterisk, is if you're looking at core inflation actually dropped 4.7% to 4.3%. That's a big drop. And what's the difference between core inflation and headline inflation? Well, core inflation minuses food and energy costs, right? So without energy, without oil price, gasoline price, all these energy services subtracted off, then the good thing is inflation is still going down, right? So that's the good thing. Although, you know, what this shows is inflation is not over, right? I think a lot of us are thinking, well, Powell's rate hikes will get us down to 2% very quickly. Actually, I don't think anyone actually thinks that. I don't think anyone thinks we're going down to 2% very quickly. But there's this hope that maybe we just go down to 2% very quickly, right? But there's external factors at play, right? Right now, it's about oil production being cut. So energy is going up. But what about supply chain? That hasn't hit yet. That's lagging. All the data, all the news reports out of China is absolutely horrible, right? So maybe in a couple months, we're going to start seeing that happen, right? Shipping costs starts going upwards. Manufacturing starts tightening up. So the cost of goods start going up. And of course, that is going to be seen as inflation as things get more expensive. Commodities and goods and services, they all start going up, right? So, yeah, this is still a concern. This is still a concern. You know, let me bring this up. Let's see the FOMC prediction here. So right now we're still at 97% for September 20th, which is exactly 1 week, for 0 rate hike. That's good. What about November, though? The one afterwards. See, it's kind of like the same, 59% to 40%. So November, it's still predicted that there's a good chance we're going to get another rate hike. What about December? December, we're still about the same, right? So there may be one more for sure in November, and hopefully no more ever after November. But we'll have to see what Powell says during this next FOMC meeting, right? Inflation is not easy to solve when you have external global macro factors at play. And also, it's not easy to solve when the U.S. government continues to print more and more money every single year. That's why we have to raise the debt ceiling every 2 years now, because without raising the debt ceiling, we can't print more, we can't borrow more, and the economy crumbles, right? And luckily right now, The dollar is still the standard. Other countries are still buying our bonds and notes and our dollars. But one day, when that's not the case, the U.S. is going to be in big trouble. Okay, so that's why. That's why we have Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin was invented, due to distrust of central banks, okay, and people that run the central banks and governments around the world. That's why Bitcoin was created, exactly for these reasons. You don't have to wait until everything collapses. You can start moving your money into something that won't. That's going to be around for much, much longer, and something that's going to appreciate over time, because there's no inflation to it, right? It's not going to automatically print 1 million more Bitcoin like fiat. It can't. It's set by code. It's only going to get more deflationary, and there's a set supply, so it's very different. Anyways, I kind of rambled on too much about that. And, you know, speaking of Bitcoin, we have good news, obviously. We have good news seemingly every single day. Last night, I talked about a huge fund manager, Franklin Templeton, 1.5 trillion asset manager. They just submitted their Bitcoin spot ETF application, right? Today, we have more of that, but Coinbase finally decided to embrace Lightning Network, okay? Lightning Network is a payment settlement layer for Bitcoin, makes payments much faster and cheaper. Of course, why, as an exchange with millions and millions and millions of transactions, why would you not embrace it, right? It's not as easy as said as done. So Brian Armstrong did say this is going to take a while, but he's going to commit to it. So that's very positive, right? And Cathie Wood loves this move, thinks that this integration will give 100 million users an on-ramp to faster and cheaper Bitcoin transactions, because Coinbase has 100 million users. They are absolutely huge, right? So that is very positive indeed. What else is positive? Well, address activity has surged to a 5-month high. That's no surprise, okay? Bitcoin activity is just high. It's just really high. Now, some of this is helped by the fact that altcoins are a little bit weak recently, right? So that may push more people towards Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is never going to go away. Like I said, it's going to be around basically, I think, forever. Nothing will ever replace Bitcoin. The others can be replaced. Bitcoin will not be. Okay, and more people are turning to it because of, you know, the spot Bitcoin ETFs and many other things that's happening, right, within the space. But yeah, this makes a whole lot of sense. And then also, you know, this makes a whole lot of sense. When in doubt, zoom out, and then you realize that Bitcoin has been doing pretty much the same thing since the beginning. And if you're looking at it this way, you really can't be fearful, right? I've told you guys this. There are some naysayers out there, some really bearish people that will always be bearish. I don't know why. Or maybe they just turn bearish because they're just, something happened to them. They made a mistake and they're now projecting their fears out, right? But, you know, as someone that's been through the past 2 cycles, which is basically all 3 of them, 2 out of 3, or 3 out of 4, you could say. Yeah, I know this is what happens, right? You have long periods of time where you stay low and it is very fearful, but then you move past it and you form a new high every single time. And then you form new lows too, higher lows, higher highs. The pattern keeps going and it never deviates. It never changes. So why, look at where we are now in this circle. Why would you be leaving right now? It makes no sense, of course. I don't think any of you guys are leaving. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at this, how could you not be bullish, right? Something else that's interesting is if you're looking at this, the Mayer multiple, okay, This basically tells you when you want to be buying and accumulating Bitcoin, right? They're basically the really extreme bottom low points of every cycle. And you could see that, yeah, this doesn't happen a lot, but we are actually 16 months in below this lower trend line, which means it's still a great time to be accumulating and DCAing, right? Just like if you look at what happened in 2015 and 2016 when Bitcoin fell to $150. Okay, think about that. For 12 months, people could have bought Bitcoin under 200. Did they at that time? No, very little, right? Just like for 6 months in 2018, 2019, people could have bought Bitcoin under 4,000. Did they? Very little people did. Same thing in 2020. We had just a month below $4,000. Did people buy, take advantage of Bitcoin at that point? No, very little people did. Some people did, but very little people jumped in because they were fearful that another dip or another low was around the corner. Same thing like right now. You got a lot of FUD spreaders. They're saying, Bitcoin's going to go down to 12,000 or whatever, causing all this fear. When we break above and we head to a new high, people will be kicking themselves, saying, why didn't I buy more Bitcoin at 20,000 or even 25,000? Plenty of opportunity, right? So, stay strong, my friends. Now, I did mention about Bitcoin spot ETFs, a lot of fund managers coming in, but hey, we may be getting Ethereum spot ETFs too. Because Ethereum is deemed a commodity and not a security, why can't we have spot ETFs? So now we have another one, okay? Now we have 3 applications for Ethereum spot ETFs as well. There's futures ETFs and spot ETFs. So if we get this would be good too. Ethereum can't be ignored. They're second biggest in the space, and they are absolutely huge. Everything basically runs on ETH and EVM, right? So why not? We may be getting some Ethereum spot ETFs also, probably not this year, but probably next year as well. Right? And when you combine that with an enormous amount of ETH leaving the exchanges, it's all the way back to like 2015 levels now, right? That's going to be very, very good. Very good for ETH in the future. So don't skip out on ETH either. All right, so outside Bitcoin and ETH, what else is going on? I saw right now, Token 2049 is going on, right? A lot of big speakers are presenting, and Polygon's co-founder, Sandeep, is talking about ZK rollups, right? And their new ZK EVM chain. I think people forgot. Polygon invested $1 billion in the ZK rollups. They want to be, they want to utilize this as their new, main chain, right? Right now it's out in beta. The main chain is not out yet. So it's kind of like multiple chains right now. But Polygon is very serious about ZK EVM. So here's the look of the dApps that are available, right? But there will be a lot more. So yeah, Polygon is trying very, 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 very hard to stay ahead of the competition, which includes all the layer 2s out there, right? Like the Arbitrums and Optimisms of the world, right? So that's good for them. I also saw this. Injective is also another L1 built from the Cosmos SDK. They're technically in the Cosmos ecosystem, but they're like their own chain, right? And they're getting native USDC. Interesting. I always wonder how hard it is to get native stablecoins onto a chain, right? Like all the major chains get it, but I wonder what's the requirement? If you just need to pay them X amount and that's it? I don't know, but good for Injective. So now they got some stablecoins. It's surprisingly a lot of chains out there don't have any native stable coins, right? I could think about like Cardano, for example. They don't have native. They have degen from Cody, but they don't have USDC or USDT, right? You have to bridge over a synthetic version. So if you think about it, not every chain has native stable coins, which actually is important because it helps bring a lot more people over, right? Especially when it comes to DeFi. So that's pretty much it. Let's see here. Overall market, hey, turned green. So that's good. So we got saved. Well, I don't know. You know, with these kind of CPI days, things could flip. And there's a lot of fake outs. So right now it seems like the market has decided we're still doing good, right? It flipped into green, but maybe flipping back into red. But I think we got saved primarily because core inflation went down, even though CPI, the headline inflation, went up so big. So we kind of got saved from that, I believe. So that's good. Coinbase is up today. Tesla is up today. Mara is down. Hut is down. They might be flipping into green soon. Tesla's almost back up to 300 again. All right, and then Bitcoin is back above 26,000, 26,100, right? Way too flat here. We just need a little push to get back up to our 30,000 level, right? So still waiting for that, and an overall market cap went up 2% today. That's not bad. All right, let's do some Q&A. All right, let's see if I missed anything. Brendan, excluding core inflation, yes, excluding food and energy, which I know is laughable because everything that we touch is dependent on energy, and also humans depend on food, right? And food costs is still very, very high. And I found this out about DoorDash. Those of you guys that love DoorDash. DoorDash seems like the best service ever, or Uber Eats, right? Makes you lazy. You could be lazy, sit at home, order whatever food you want. And if you pay for their subscription, get free delivery and all that good stuff, right? But the restaurants themselves mark up the food significantly on DoorDash. So if you're ordering a burger and you're wondering why DoorDash is like $10 a burger, or like $8 a burger, is because they marked it up. If you go to the restaurant itself, you'll see that it's more like $6, right? Just FYI, in case you guys haven't figured that out. But overall, food is just expensive all around. But DoorDash makes it even worse. Space vibe. That's not. That's not accurate. Hamdan. Okay, stop trying to show a Pepe spot ETF. It's not funny, and it's not going to happen. And who knows if Pepe is going to be rugged more. Who are you rooting for U.S. presidential candidate? I mean, I don't know. The one that's making the most noise, obviously, is Vivek Ramzamui or something. I can't pronounce the last name, but he seems to be saying all the right things. But I watched him in that presidential debate. His foreign policies, I think, is very lacking. I think I agree with everyone that he would be better served because of how young he is and a lack of experience with foreign policy. It would be better served if he becomes vice president for 4 years. Then he could run. He's still plenty young, and then he has a little more experience under his belt. But outside of him, everyone else, I just don't believe. I don't believe anyone. I listen to what they say, and sometimes they give like the worst answers that I don't even believe they believe. They're just saying it, right? Like, you don't really see a lot of honest politicians, especially ones running for president. It's just, it's virtually impossible to get nominated and become president without having a whole lot of dirt and having dirt on others to make them endorse you. That's how I see it. Joseph, DoorDash is trash. They will literally eat your food and deliver it back. The good thing about DoorDash is, the one really good thing is their customer service. So if there's a problem with your food, you just put it into the app. You just go into service and request help and tell them you're missing an item or something's not right. They give you an instant credit back. So that is the good thing about DoorDash. But yes, I have many orders. I made many orders. After I received them, it's missing like half the things or something's off or something like that. Any chance BlackRock will buy FTX to claim the crypto assets? I don't think so. I don't think that's they don't need to do that. They don't need attention to themselves. They could buy as much crypto. Whatever FTX is holding is pocket change to BlackRock. They could buy just as much, if not more, instantly on the OTC market. I'll leave this up. It's good. Good reminder of what's to come. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the latest, I don't know where Biden was. If you saw that clip of him just talking in circles, and then they had to remove him from the stage. Like, he literally was falling asleep while he was talking. Like, we can't have presidents like that. And McConnell, how he just like froze in the middle of his press conference. Like, I don't get it. Like I guess young people don't want to be in politics. So these old guys, like really, really old guys, they get elected and they stay way too long, right? That's why nothing ever gets done, because they all need their breaks and naps, and they don't know what's going on anymore, and they can't relate to everyone else. There should be a mandatory age limit. There should be a term limit too. There's a term limit on president. Why is there not a term limit for Congress people, right? Or senators? Some of them like have served for like 40 or 50 years. Why don't we have term limits and age limits? There should be an age limit. Ryan, what's your comment above? I saw it. I don't even get it. I might start a channel called Cardboard Box Home Crypto. I don't get it, Ryan. People making 100K are already living paycheck to paycheck. How bad do you think student loans repayment will be? NMCT, see, that's deceiving statement. There's a lot of people that make under 100K that are not living paycheck to paycheck. People that are making over 100K living paycheck to paycheck are the ones that choose to do so because they like to spend. They don't like to save. That's not like a certainty. It's just because most Americans do live that way. They love to spend on their fancy luxury cars, on upgrading their home, taking a lot of vacations, right? But there are people that are doing just fine. They're not living paycheck to paycheck. I'll tell you, I mean, especially like a lot of immigrants, like my wife's dad, who's a restaurant worker. He's kind of like a chef. He does like roast duck and pork and barbecue stuff for these Chinese restaurants. He's making way under $100,000 a year, okay? And he's saving a ton because he never goes out. He never spends. He never goes on vacations. He doesn't buy new fancy cars or watches or clothes. So NMCT, you asked that yesterday. Just because you watched it on the news doesn't mean that it's true, and it doesn't mean it's for everyone, and it doesn't mean that you have to be in the same situation. Do you see a day when Cardano will surpass Ether? No. Rich, I hope you're feeling better. Thank you. I do feel better, except my bee sting on my knuckle still hurts like hell. What comes after 1 million? I don't know. 5 million? 3 million? America is the land of debt. Everyone, there's good debt and bad debt. Unfortunately, most people just live with bad debt, and they will rack up that bad debt forever. Because not enough people get financial, they're not financial literate. They were never taught the importance of money. They were taught how to get a job and how to make money, but in terms of balancing your spendings, right? How to invest. Financial literacy. Very little Americans, I'd say very little people actually, know about it, right? It's important. It's important. So it doesn't matter how much you make. There's people that make well above 6 figures. There's people, doctors, that make 3, 4, 500,000. Lawyers. You know, I hear this especially about doctors. Doctors are horrible business people, and they make a lot, and they have this God complex because they feel like, you know, they're a doctor. They went to school for so long, and nurses, everyone bows to them, right? But they're horrible. They're horrible with money. You know, they spend a ton. But I hear about doctors going bankrupt all the time, and they're like, it's okay, I can always find another job. Doctors are always in demand, right? But you'll be surprised how many doctors are actually broke and living paycheck to paycheck. If they stop getting that paycheck, they don't have anything. So, I mean, the U.S. lives on debt, right? So that's why we never really have this problem about deflation in the U.S. because Americans are trained to go spend and spend and spend no matter what. No matter how broke people are, they will spend on their credit card and keep spending. That's why we have how many Starbucks out there, and none of them ever closes because people will always spend $4 to $5 for their cup of Starbucks daily or twice daily or, you know, 3 times a day. Even when they're living paycheck to paycheck, they can't skip out on their Starbucks, right? Like, as a nation, we just like, that's just how it is. But if you look at a lot of Asian countries, that's not like that. Like Japan and China, that's why China is deflationary, because people are not the same. They save more, right? They spend less. There's good and, you know, there's good and bads to that, right? Obviously, as a nation, being deflationary is horrible. I know I was just making an example about Starbucks and I'm drinking at Starbucks, but I actually bought this yesterday, drank half, and I saved it to today. So I didn't buy, I don't buy at Starbucks all the time. Do I tip big to my DoorDasher? Do they know who I am? No, they don't. Because they just leave it at the door. They never see me. Let's see. Still pretty good. I am a fan of Coinbase. Not so much HUD 8. I think Mara may be a better play, but recently they issued a lot of stock, so that's not good. But Coinbase is definitely my favorite for crypto stocks. Do Australians spend like Americans? I have no idea. Some of you guys are from Australia. You could chime in on that. If you're going to use credit cards, make sure you have the ability to pay it off every single month. Take advantage because they'll give you their points, right? So do the reverse. Actually make money from these credit cards. So you could put everything on your credit card. Just make sure you pay it off every single month. They don't get a dime from you, and they give you their reward points, which you can convert for gift cards or travel or whatever, right? But very little people do that. People just keep putting more and more and more on their credit card. It's just killing people. They don't realize the 28% interest rate, how bad that is, and how it keeps rolling upon itself, and it makes it an impossible situation for people to get out of and repay back. Next gaming crypto project besides Gala, it's tough. The other ones are so far behind. Like maybe like Vulcan, I think they're the second biggest, but everyone else is so, like, I remember Ultra before, they're so far behind. UFO Gaming, again, no one's really close to Gala. Gala still has great games that people play, but their founders, with their founders suing each other left and right, that's just, you can't overlook that. Scott Murray. Who are these people you keep speaking of? I've never had a credit card, almost 30 years old. That's amazing, but here's the thing. You also do want to have credit cards because it helps build your credit. The interesting thing about credit and credit rating is it's not how much money you have in the bank. It's not how much you can save. It's based on how much you can spend. So if you want to have a really good credit rating, in case you want to buy a house someday or buy a car with lower interest, you need to have credit rating and really good ones. Something above like 700, 750, 800. If you can get above 800, that's amazing. But one way to do it is to get a credit card and start spending every month and paying it off every month. Don't let the banks make any money off of you. But if you spend and pay it off every single month, it helps build your credit. That's the easiest way to do it. Easiest way to do it. Now, I've been talking about bad debt. There is good debt, okay? There's very good debt. So there's a lot of debt that you could take on that helps you make more money, okay? For example, like with real estate, you could take on debt. You could put down very little for your very first home, for example. You could use FHA loan and put 5% down. You could build equity by staying there over time, right? Obviously, but you could also buy investment properties. You put 25% down and you just rent it out, right? And sit on it for a long period of time. That's considered good debt because the house appreciates over time. You could also make rental income, right? So there's good debt and bad debt. Dan, haven't seen you in a while, Dan. Gala sounds bullish. I hope it tanks hard so there's plenty to buy cheap. It's so hard waiting for buy opportunities, unless you swing trade. Gala has already tanked hard. It's still like 99% down. I don't know what you're expecting. If it tanks any lower, it may never recover. So I don't know, Dan. The infighting needs to stop. You get an FHA loan, too, on a duplex or triplex. Live there and make money while you... Yes. I didn't know you could do that on a duplex or triplex. But one of the things I hear for a lot of young people, rather than buy a house, yeah, buy a duplex or triplex or, you know, a flat, a 4-flat or something. Live in one of the units and then rent out the other 3 or other 2 or other 1, right? That's how you build equity with that building. You're collecting rent, right? And when you have enough, you go buy another flat and keep rinse and repeat. But it's hard. It's hard. It's not as easy to sound because all these flats and duplexes have gone up so much over the last few years. So you have to kind of wait for the prices to drop. Well, I didn't know you could get an FHA loan on them. I didn't know that as your first house. The Feezy says BTC was never meant to be traded. It's meant to be bought and held. I think that's true. I think it's true. And that's being done. More and more long-term holders, more addresses, reserves keep going down. That's exactly what's happening. Have I made money selling cars? Yes. Interesting enough. That's how I made enough money to start buying Bitcoin back in 2017. After college, I was very broke. It was the .com bubble, so there was no one hiring and paying big bucks for IT, and it was like that for a long time. So finally, I saved enough. In 2007, 2008. I went big in the stock market. Okay, guess what happened? Everything tanked again. I lost it all. I had no savings. In fact, I was so broke, I was like very, very, very into debt. So I had no money. So I was still slaving away on my 9 to 5. And then for a long time, I just didn't want to pay attention to anything, right? So then fast forward to 2013, and in 2013, that's when I heard about Bitcoin, started mining, and then 2014 rolled around, everything went under. I like, screw that, I sold everything. But I was still living paycheck to paycheck. So here's the funny thing. So between 2016 and 2017, I decided like, okay, I was to take a risk. I decided to flip cars on Craigslist, and I did that for several months, and I was really good at it. It's surprisingly a great number of cars that you could buy for under book value, right? And then you could flip it to someone right away. So I did that for a while. I made about like 10 grand by doing it, and then I spent a lot of it. Then rolled 2017, and Bitcoin was back above 1,000. I'm like, all right, I got to buy some Bitcoin. So I bought like 3 or 4 Bitcoin with my remaining money in 2017. That's how I entered back into the space with money I used from flipping cars. So it's an interesting story. I should write an autobiography. All right, guys. I think that's it for this morning. Overall, I think even though inflation went up, we got saved by core inflation going down, which is good. But that doesn't mean we're out of the woods just yet. Inflation could continue to go up because OPEC is still cutting. China's situation is getting worse, right? Ultimately, how do we escape inflation? You buy Bitcoin. That's what you do. That's what you do. All right, guys. Smash it a like. Subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.